Hello, welcome to the second podcast of Real Pick Productions. I am the lead designer, Jonathan Moore.
I'm the lead artist, Megan Sway.
I'm the lead graphic designer, Natalie Thompson.
And this time we actually had a unanimous decision, so thank you. We're actually going to be talking about the lore this time around. However, before we start, I just wanted to say a little, update from last month's session or podcast. There actually is a rebreather. I am not an idiot. We actually did add that in, so I didn't have to go back and add it in. It was already there. It already exists. I'm a genius.
Okay.
Well then, to start off with the lore, we were talking about how we would actually talk about it because it's kind of difficult to find out where to start. Before we were thinking that it would be easiest to start with the humans because, well, we are human. But we decided on actually starting with the Ferdician because they're the ones that sort of made the starting point in the lore. Just to talk about the Ferdician a little bit, they are a monkey-like race, I guess, is a way to tell.
Well,
A lot of people say they look like elves.
yeah, they look like elves because they have the pointed ears and they're kind of like humans except a lot buffer, but they have monkey-like feet and
They're buff
limbs.
monkey elves.
Yes.
There we go.
But don't let the buff, look fool you because they're actually geniuses as well. They are inventors, scientists. However, they did used to be tribals. That was one of their main things. But they went from living out in the woods and the forest to living in caves where they would actually perform science experiments. And that's just where they stayed.
Oh, and that is also part of their facial tattoo markings. It's from their tribal past, and it's just carried over since then.
Yeah, they all have different tattoos based off of the clans that they were in. And they've decided to keep them just to have that little bit of culture. So they are buff monkey elves with tribal tattoos. But the main thing that the Ferdicians did that provided for the galaxy was making their resers. And the resers were the ones that started to make pylons and warp stations and things like that. They have, not really that long of a history since they were made by the Ferdician, and probably a long time after the Ferdician were around. All the other races were around, so the resers have a very pretty fresh history.
I'm gonna clarify that the Resers are a robot race.
Yes. Made by the Ferdician, once again. So they have the same kind of similarities to the Ferdician. They also have a, monkey-like elf visual.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
kind of do.
Yeah.
Less monkey-like, but you'll
Yeah.
see. You guys will see.
Yeah, if you actually wanted to talk about the art,
Vote for it. Vote for the art, and I'll talk about all the art decisions I made when making these races.
yeah, but this is the lore, so you kind of missed out on that.
Well, I mean, they get it next time, so.
Well, yeah. Or if you vote for it next time. That's the thing.
You better vote for it.
Don't influence the votes, guys.
But the Resers, they made the pylons and warp stations, and that actually allowed the Ferdician and them to find other races in the galaxy. And the first race that they found were actually the Vadian. Sorry, our lead graphic designer is changing something right now. I don't know what she's doing.
There was a typo.
Oh. Okay.
We don't need that in our book.
Part of the lore is typos are everywhere. The Vadian are a frog-like race. They're mainly known for, you could say, social interactions and security. I know that they're actually really known for security. That was one of the main things that they did in the past. To describe them a little bit, they're more like, you could say, an Asian culture. They value honor above all else. But the meeting between them and Resers and the Ferdician were peaceful, all in all. They decided that they could join forces and do something greater. And also the Vadian just wanted to, move away from their metropolis-like planet because they had gotten rid of basically any kind of nature on their planet. It was all city.
That's really sad.
Yeah. I mean, they were growing a lot, and they had nowhere else to go because they had no kind of space technology. But then the Rezzers came, and they were just like, hey, you want to leave this place? And they decided to go with that. So a lot of their space-age technology is actually influenced by the Rezzers and the Ferdician. The next race that they found were the Darabin, and they're a lizard-like race, which are actually technical geniuses, even though they live in tribes just like the Ferdician. And in fact, they continue to live in tribes to this day. Unlike the Ferdician only put their tattoos on just for a cultural reference. The Darabin actually go through with living in tribes still. But they live on a swamp-like planet, and they tend to stick to the shadows. They're more of a stealthy, kind of sneaky race. They are technical geniuses, however, like I said. They've made their own ships, but they couldn't actually go anywhere with them. They could only go within their specific solar system until the Rezzers came. Then they actually learned how to develop warp drives, and they decided to go out with that. However, a little while after that, they started to get a disease in their race, which started to kill them off. And so they decided to bring back a age-old tradition on their planet, a love festival, to try and counteract the disease and make sure that their kind can live on. However, the disease keeps on killing them off. I can't remember what we actually named the disease.
Sir, hold on.
That is
It's too big.
too close.
There we go.
Surgotox.
Yes.
It's an interesting
I
name.
didn't want to butcher it.
We made this word and we don't even know how to say it.
I know how to say it. Surgotox. That's how you say it.
I wouldn't know how to say it.
After the Darabin, however, they found the humans. And that is a really easy topic to talk about because we are human. In the year 2030,
30?
yeah.
You're
Yeah, the humans have a more of a developed backstory, I guess you could say. Oh, I mean, all the races have a developed backstory, but it's easier to talk about the humans because, like I said, we are human. But in the year 2030, the humans found a way to enhance themselves, which is very interesting because you would think that the Ferdicians or the Rezzers would have found the way to enhance bodies and make them better, but no, it was actually the humans that developed that, probably because we're all vanity and we just like to make ourselves better in some ways. But this caused a second evolution to take hold, and there were a lot of people that were against the idea of enhancing themselves and people that were completely for the idea. And coupled with the growth, I guess, with power and how power was starting to dwindle and people needed it, they started a war in 2057. And a little while after that war, it actually became a nuclear wasteland.
So, would you say compared to other races, humans are a little bit more individualistic in their society with their mindset compared to other races?
The Darabin have started to become individualistic ever since the disease hit them.
Well, but they're still coming together for that festival.
Yeah, they still have to work together. Though I would say probably in the past the humans were very individualistic, but after the nuclear wasteland they had to build back up, and that's what brought them back together. In 2083, they put all the differences aside and revitalized the community. However, the only place where they couldn't revise and create a new community was Texas, New Mexico, and California. Those places became just wastelands of individualism and no one working together, and everyone hated everything. But the second half started in 2085 of their history. That's whenever they actually developed a sort of test for everyone. It's a dystopian kind of future for them because at the age of 15, they had to go through certain tests, and if they could not score above a certain level, they would actually be killed, and they would be reevaluated every 2 years.
Sounds like that plot of that one movie.
I mean, it probably was inspired by it.
They could have just made them sterile or something. Like, oh, you're just going to be labor workers now, and you can't have babies.
No, because they didn't want the nuclear holocaust to happen again. They thought that if there was someone that was not in the right mindset, or if there was someone who was weak or anything like that, bad things could happen to the human race. And so they developed a sort of superhuman race. All this, however, stopped whenever the Rezzers and the Ferdician and Darabin and Valian, they all found them, and they saw that as not right. Inhumane. I would say inhumane, but they're not humans.
It still works.
I mean, I guess it still works. But they saw that as inhumane, and so the humans decide, okay, we'll stop, and we'll actually follow with your, I guess, what would it be called? Ideology?
Yeah, I guess.
I guess.
They
Something
saw
like
the
that.
error of their ways and decided to change and work together with the other races in the universe.
That works.
Yeah.
Also, sorry if I am starting to, like, I guess, cut out and not know what to say, because I'm the only one that could really talk about the lore. That we talked about this. Natalie and Megan have no idea whatsoever.
I know, we know a little bit, but not enough to really go into depth about things, and that's why I'm kind of asking questions about certain things, because it's like, I actually don't know that much about
The most
lore.
individualistic is the one he hasn't talked about yet. I know that.
Yeah.
You know about the Geisling?
Yeah.
Well, I guess speaking of the segue, the next race that they found was the Geisling, and that race was not met in a peaceful way. The Geisling saw all the other races as a threat, and so they took up arms and went to war with every single race in the galaxy. Now, you would think that the war would end very swiftly because it's all these people with space-age technology. It's, well, what is it, 5 races? With all of their space-age technology, all of their resources, going to war with one race. It actually lasted for a few years. But in the end, they made a stalemate, and they decide to join forces with the rest of the galaxy, seeing them as, I guess, Geisling-like. But before that, however, they were actually philosophers, scientists, tacticians. They were basically a human-like bug race. However, that all changed whenever, well, they basically destroyed each other. They started another nuclear holocaust, just like the humans, but this one destroyed all symbols of the past. Everything that they worked for was gone in an instant, and they lost all sort of any technical advancement, really. And they just became barbarians that were wandering the wastelands. And the only community that they had were some of the tribes that they developed.
Lots of tribes in this game.
There are a lot of tribes, yes. But I mean,
I guess that's how everyone starts off.
yeah. I mean, the humans had tribes.
What race didn't have tribes so far?
The
Vadian.
The Vadian.
How did they start off then?
As a civilized people.
They evolved from
tadpoles.
and just straight up became civilized with their own.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, the Vadian
own
probably
structure.
had tribes as well.
No, they were tadpoles.
But it turned into family clans and things like that, and they joined together. But after the Geislings decided to join in with the other races, that sort of development stopped. They didn't really find anyone else. The other races actually found them instead. But that's in expansions, not in the core rule book. But one thing to note as well is that you can change the lore if you really wish to. So, I mean, you can make it so that the Rezzers were made by the Geislings instead.
Or the Rezzers never knew their creators and they're going out on a long journey to find who they are.
The Rezzers aren't even robots.
Yeah, there we go. Plot twist.
The Rezzers are actually corgis. That was actually someone who played as a Rezzer. They made their Rezzer a corgi.
With, like, cartoon hands that would come out of their back.
He was a scientist. It was weird.
Yeah.
One thing to continue on, though, is that the Rezzers were actually making a race during the war against the Geislings. The race was known as the Sleepers. They were being made specifically to take care of the Geislings, but a little while after they were designing it, the war against them stopped. So the Rezzers sort of decided to abandon the idea, but a few of them came together and decided to continue with the designs, and they were continuing on with making it a more efficient version of themselves to create some kind of... I guess really they were making it to solidify their place in the galaxy. They thought that making a warp drive and pylons and things like that to meet all the other races weren't good enough. So they wanted to make something like how the Ferdician made them. However, a little while after the designs were finished, the Sleepers looked at the other races and saw them as inefficient and decided to start to do experiments on them to create more efficient models of themselves, taking away their ideas, their, I guess you could say, their soul. Who they are, basically. And the Rezzers saw this as bad, but the Sleepers decided to ask the Rezzers if they wanted to join them to make the universe more efficient, to create a better program, I guess. But the Rezzers decided to go against that idea and save their organic friends, and the Sleepers saw that as an inefficient program, something that wouldn't work for their goals, so they went to war with every other race. And they quickly set up a base of operations and a factory and started developed millions of Sleepers per day. And so now the Rezzers have to deal with that, and they're in a constant state of war that doesn't seem like it's ever going to end. So that's fun.
Well, that sets up the Sleepers because they're the main enemy, right?
Yeah, they're one of the main enemies. Another main enemy would be the Kurglings. They're a barbarian race that actually has ties to one of the races in the expansion. But we're not going to talk about that a lot. But we will talk about the Kurglings, I guess. Their home planet was destroyed by one of the races in the expansions. And they decide to say, you know what? Screw you guys. We're going to go and basically make another home base that will fail again and again and again. They basically can never make a new home base. Every single time they do, it gets overrun by different science experiments that they run, or they just get destroyed again. So they're just a group of barbaric nomads going through space.
And they're like fish.
Yes, they're fish. If they're out of their mech suits, that's another thing. They're in mech suits. If they're out of their mech suits, they can't function anymore. They're really just fish flopping around. But inside their mech suits, that's whenever they can actually function and do things. They are also geniuses. In fact, a lot of people say that they might even be smarter than the Ferdician. They might have the same kind of intelligence as Rezzers.
How are they barbarians then?
Because their home keeps on getting destroyed.
Oh.
They can never actually develop anything.
They're just unlucky.
Yeah, the one downfall for them is actually their intelligence, because one time they made a biological weapon known as a mind pig. Really, it wasn't even them that made it. It was one of the Kurglings. It's a Anglerk. The Kurglings are also slavers. They destroy a race, enslave them, and add them to their, I guess, warmonger. Their army. Excuse me, again. I'm just out of it a little bit right now. They add them to their army, and they use them as cannon fodder, I guess you could say. But the Anglerks were with war against the Kurglings, and the Anglerks decided to create a biological weapon known as a mind pig, which would go in, take control of the enemy, and use the enemy against the other allies. However, That was a horrible idea because they forgot to develop, well, a certain program because it was a biological weapon. There was no real way of controlling it, and it just got out and started to kill them. And so they had to surrender to the Kurglings and become slaves of them. But they could never destroy the Mind Pigs because the Mind Pigs, once they get hold of a host, they can develop more Mind Pigs. And so they kept on getting more and more hosts, developing more and more Mind Pigs, getting more and more hosts after that. And so now any type of old base of the Anglurks, they're just filled with Mind Pigs everywhere. It's just hives of death.
All right.
Kurglings, however, took that idea and developed their own biological weapon known as Experiment X, which they were actually smart with. They decided to program them, actually. It's a, I guess, organic, technical hybrid where it focuses on electricity, actually, where it will actually go near an enemy, send out an electrical pulse that will damage any kind of synthetic part, any electrical part, and also can stop the hearts of organics. So
I know nothing about this one.
yeah, I know you know nothing about
I
it.
drew that one like not too long ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Megan actually knows a little bit about them because she's been working on a lot of the Kurgling stuff.
Yeah. It's been very interesting working on them.
I think she means she doesn't like to work on them. God, there's not really.
More enemies with awesome backstories like that one.
Well, I guess we could talk about the smaller enemies like the Lurker.
Mm-hmm.
They're just an animal on the Darabin homeworld. They're actually pretty interesting because how they function is that they have a parasite in their stomach that they spit up. Usually how they hunt is they spit it up into water. A fish eats the parasite thinking that it's nutrients, but then the fish gets taken over and they just kind of flop onto land and the Lurker can eat the fish, and that's how they hunt usually. However, there are some Lurkers that want bigger meals, so they actually go into the living quarters of Darabin, spit up their parasite into the mouths of sleeping Darabin, and have them walk outside of the village where they can easily just kill the Darabin and eat the Darabin.
Isn't it sometimes Darabin get them as like pets?
Yes, sometimes they actually can tame the Lurker, but that's very rarely. And they use the Lurker actually to fend off against other Lurkers. Darabin homeworld is very dangerous. Sort of like Australia.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, it's like a swamp, so.
Yeah, it's filled with a lot of interesting creatures. Another creature.
Their entire planet isn't just a swamp, though, right?
No, it's
Okay,
not all
good.
just swamp. It's
That'd be a little ridiculous.
other parts. It's not like where was. I don't want to. I don't know if I can mention. Well, yes, I can. Yoda. Where was Yoda? What planet was he
I
stuck
don't
on?
know.
Do you
I
remember?
don't remember.
Well, clearly we're not Star Wars fans.
I haven't watched Star Wars in a long time.
God,
I've only seen the new one.
I want to say I keep on thinking in my head Tatooine, but no, that's where Luke
Yeah,
is.
that's the desert
Yeah, that's the
planet.
desert planet.
So one thing, I think I kind of talked to Jonathan about this was I don't like when whole planets in like games or movies are all one environment. I think that's like really ridiculous to think that there's just one planet that's all desert or one planet that's all, swamp or plain lands or jungle or something. So that's why I brought that up, because I hate that.
Depends
So-
how big the planet is, though.
To counteract that, I decided to make it so that planets are just mostly one thing.
We also talked about racial culture and stuff, how in a lot of other like movies and games, a lot of alien races for some reason always seem to just have one culture compared to like humans, where we have all different kinds of cultures and languages and stuff like that. So that was another thing I was talking to Jonathan about, was that these different races aren't just going to be one set culture.
Yeah, the Vadian, I mean, they're still Asian, basically.
I feel like this is because it's the first rule book and stuff. It just has the basis of, the lore and
Yeah.
the general view of the races. So,
Yeah.
even though we'll probably come out with more in the future, so you get the variety of each one right now, it's pretty focused.
I guess it also falls on the DM and players to create lore for your own characters and like culture and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but the Vatican are the only ones that actually have some kind of specific culture.
I mean, if we come out with modules and stuff, it could focus on like lore aspects and different parts of the planet and things like that too.
Yeah.
Which would be kind of cool. Get different.
Yeah, true. I know that in the beginning, the Geislings, I actually focused on a more Roman culture, is what they had. That and the Spartan culture. Which, would it really be called Spartan culture? Rome's, well, the Spartans, they're from,
I'm not a big history person.
I'm not
so-
either.
Moving on. Speaking of the Geislings, another thing that they have is known as a rockfish, and they're one of my favorite enemies in the game. It's a huge, I guess, creature that burrows underground. I guess you can liken it to a mole, actually. Only
It's a turtle mole.
a turtle mole, a toll, or
I
a
just
myrtle.
designed that last week.
Oh,
Or not
oh
last week,
okay,
but-
it's that one.
yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, they're huge. They burrow underground. They actually weren't around at the beginning of the Geislings culture. They're well, not culture, but their planet. People think that they actually were developed whenever the nuclear holocaust happened on their planet. It was just something, I guess, got hit with radiation and developed that. But they're seen as their gods' pets, actually. They view them as a, I guess, respectable but also religious symbol. One thing, however, is that if they view them as religious, you would think, oh, they're not going to kill them, but they actually view it as you need to kill one if you're going to be a Geisling. If another race kills one, the Geislings will actually view that race, well, that specific person as another Geisling. It's just part of their culture. Because if you can take down that mammoth of a thing, you're clearly strong enough to be a Geisling. Which is ridiculous.
I like their mindset. Like, I just see in their minds they have, like, Geisling and then not Geisling. Like, that's all they see.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, if you actually look at them as well, I mean, we were talking about this. Every other race is sort of humanoid, but then the Geislings, they're really different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you would think just like it's Geisling and not Geisling.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's two-leg walker over here.
And when Two-Leg Walker kills one, they're like, honorary Geisling.
Four-leg walker.
Yeah.
Or it's not even. They have
They
only
have 8 legs.
8 legs. Okay.
Well, I mean, like, they have their 2 legs that they usually walk on. They have their hands, and then they got their, like,
upper legs.
upper, like, talons sort of things.
And then there are different kinds of Geislings who can have multiple legs
Yeah.
as well. Because that was one of the players, right? He had multiple legs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he basically wanted his neck to be really long and kind of have legs on it. It's the design for the mercenary, I believe. That was his character that I designed. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of designed it already, and then I just made it, for
Yeah,
the
he
book.
was basically wanting to be a centipede Geisling.
Yeah.
So,
Like
I
a
mean,
cockroach head or something like that.
which is one thing to talk about is that the Geislings aren't just, I guess, 2 specific things, female and male. They have different designs about them.
We actually kind of talked about the possibility coming out with just an art book with just varying things with the races, I guess. Like,
Varying designs.
Yeah, varying designs with the races.
The Rezzers could have... I just thought of the Rezzer with the anime
Yes,
kawaii look.
the thing about Rezzers is they can look like anything you want, basically. Like we said, there was a player that played as a corgi that had, like, cartoon hands that would come out of its back and do stuff for it. So that's, like, one of the coolest things about the Rezzers is they can look like anything you want because they're robots.
And with the Geislings, like we were saying, they could look like a praying mantis,
Or
a centipede,
Varying different kinds of bugs.
a shrimp Geisling. I mean, technically, a shrimp is an aquatic bug,
I guess, yeah.
right?
I don't know.
Natalie, do you have anything to add to this?
I'd rather have a crab Geisling. I don't know.
Well, there's a crab race that'll come out
Oh, okay.
in the expansion.
So there you go, we can have a shrimp one. Because then that'll be a variation of that crab thing.
I mean, I guess baby crabs. Though that's not even how baby crabs work. They're not shrimp. Shrimp is a different genus altogether.
Oh, yeah. That's what we'll do. They start off as shrimp, and then they grow up to be crabs.
When you mentioned the art book, I was thinking we could add more lore into the art book, too. Because,
yeah, and that also helps with, like, the different cultures and things like that.
Yeah.
And as you get to see how these, like, variations basically evolved in different parts of the world and how their different cultures affected them and stuff like that.
Well, it looks like it's time for the shout out. We still only have 3 $20 supporters right now, so it's kind of difficult to figure out who we're going to shout out to. But this month we decided just to shout out to Herschel Moore. He is my dad, after all. He also had his birthday last week, so happy belated birthday. Love you. Continuing on.
What about the religions in this?
So many religions. Well, I guess not too many religions.
Not that many.
Yeah.
It's like at least one for every race.
I thought there was at least like 2.
Well, there are some races that only have one.
Okay.
Like the Ferdician, they only have the Akunai, I believe. No, you're right. You're right. The Ferdician actually do have 2. They don't worship one anymore, but the Rezzers took that one and they started to worship it. Yeah, the Ferdician worship the Akunai or the Balance. The Balance is just the view of everything has an equal and opposite reaction. It's sort of that kind of ideology where if something bad happens, something good is going to happen later on, or if something good happens, you're going to get something bad later on. It's always going to equal out. Yeah. There's always going to be something that equals each other out. And the Akunai is basically a religion that focuses on development, research, science, any sort of growth in that regard. It's all knowledge.
Wait a minute. Isn't the Ferdician, like, I think I talked to you about this, aren't they, like, kind of younger compared to humans in their, like, I guess, evolution and, like, how old their planet is and stuff like that?
If I remember correctly, I believe Ferdician, yeah, they have a shorter history than humans. Ignore that. But the Ferdician, yeah, they have a younger history than the humans. They still found them much later on, though.
All right.
So they're just smarter than the humans.
Yeah. They didn't screw up as much as the humans, too, probably.
They didn't blow themselves up.
They didn't destroy a bunch of their knowledge in the past.
Nope. They kept everything. The Geislings worship a god known as Israel, which is the god of combat. Like I was saying before, they view the rockfish as pets of Israel because of the huge combat that they gave to each other. Well, I mean, I guess they gifted each other bombs, so...
Gosh.
But they saw them doing that as Israel giving them the rockfish. They saw that as just like Israel rewarding them for their deeds in combat. It's like, oh, good job, you destroyed each other. Have these huge monstrosities. The Darabin worship the Void or Nifex. The Void is basically, I guess you could liken it to atheism. It's the lack of everything. It's the lack of any sort of god, anything like that. They're kind of an emo race. I mean, to be fair, they are dying. So they also worship Nifex, which is the god of the end times and keeper of the end times. He's the one that is going to destroy everything in the end. Again, emo race.
They're so edgy.
I think this is the normal ones, right?
Yeah, the human religions, it's Judaism, Christianity, Islam, anything like that. They also can worship the Void, of course. Next up would be the Vadian. They worship Lohavar or the Balance. Lohavar is actually very interesting because it's not really a religion per se. It's more of a ideology. It's a social hierarchy.
Is that their honor thing?
Yes, it's... Oh, not really even honor. It's like sort of looking at the head of a family, and then it's the head, the wife of the head, the children's children, and it goes down
Oh.
in a social hierarchy where only the heads of families talk to the other heads of families or lower down into their family list. And it just goes off like that. They're very strict
It
race.
sounds kind of almost like a caste system.
A what?
Caste system.
Caste system?
Caste.
Caste.
Caste?
Yeah, like
You never heard
Hindu,
about
like a
caste
Hindu
system?
caste system.
Explain to me what this caste system is.
Well, I was first introduced with it with Dragon Age. You know the dwarves in Dragon Age?
Yeah.
Like, they had that caste system where, like, depending on what family you're born into was, like, how you lived your life. So if you were born into a rich family, then, like, you got a lot of political power and stuff like
okay,
that.
then, yeah. Well, yeah, then, yeah, it's sort of like that. I mean, there are real-life examples, too,
I know.
with the social hierarchy.
Yeah,
I mean-
it's mostly in Hindu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, they're Asian-based. So they also worship the balance, and, I mean, that's just because there are a lot of them that are very, I guess, spiritual-oriented, where they view everything as equal. I remember I actually played as a Vadian priest who was a priest for the balance, and he would usually say for every wound a bandage whenever healing people.
We don't have a priest class, though.
No, we did not. I was a socialite that would just focus on healing.
You were, like, an actual kind of priest sort of person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Rezzers worship the Void, the Balance, or the Ancients. We already talked about the Void and the Balance, but the Ancients, that was a religion that was actually developed by the Ferdician, like, way early on in their history. That was back whenever they were still in tribes, but then the Ferdician were just like, nah, this isn't a religion. This is more of a mythology. And they just got rid of it. Basically, it wasn't, I guess, progressive for them. However, the Rezzers found it, and they were just like, that's pretty good. So they took the religion and they edited it, I guess you could say, to fit their ideology more. And the Ancients are basically just the ones who keep watch. I can't really specifically what they are, but I remember that they're the ones that existed before and that they were going to come back to create a better version of everything.
All right.
So they're just like, I guess you could say, curators of the universe. That's what they are. But that's all the religions. So, like I said, there's not that. I guess I was saying that there's a lot of them. You were saying that there's not that many of them. So yes, you were correct, Megan. There really isn't that many of them.
I think there should be evil cults added into there.
Expansion.
I know.
There will be evil cults added in later. So if you want to be part of an evil cult, you can in an expansion.
So the sleepers be like, if they had one, it'd be the Void, probably.
Yeah, the sleepers would believe in the Void.
I feel like they think they're above religion.
Well, that's kind of what the Void is, isn't it? It's like nothing.
the view of nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. So why even waste your time? Yeah, I would say the Void would be the sleepers. The Kurgling, they probably have their own religion. But in fact, no, they probably don't even worship a god. They probably worship the Emperor. It's a god emperor, which I guess is still a religion.
Yeah, it's still.
Yeah. Even though their emperor has died several times, they still view it as a reincarnation kind of thing. The god keeps on coming back.
Isn't that kind of like Egypt? I'm not sure if it's like Egypt, but.
Yeah, I guess with the pharaoh.
Yeah.
Maybe the Kurglings are just Egyptian. No, they're not.
Governments.
True. Governments. We have the Republic Citadel. That's really a city, but the Republic is the government. That was developed after the war with the Geislings. They decided to create something where everyone could actually speak to each other in a free form. So they developed the Republic. Currently, there's only 3 counselors. There's always been 3 counselors, though. But currently, it's a Vadian, Darabin, and a Ferdician who are on the council seat. The Geislings weren't allowed. In fact, they've never had a counselor. Actually, they've only had ambassadors. The same with the Rezzers. After the Rezzers made the Sleepers, they decided to keep the Rezzers as only ambassadors. No race liked the
That's
Rezzers.
so rude.
Wow. They like brought all these races together and they're like, no, you only get ambassadors.
Yeah. The Ferdicians were the one that made the Republic, and so they decided that there would always be a Ferdician counselor because they were the ones that actually started everything.
That's so racist.
Humans never had a council seat. The Rezzers never had a council seat. Geislings never had a council seat. The only ones that ever had actually were the Vadian and the Darabin and the Ferdician. So it's always been a very strict, only those three.
All right.
Because they view them as they've never messed up anything.
And they're just like, we're pure.
Whenever they start messing things up, though, that seat gets taken away.
You know what? It's humans now. They've only blown themselves up once. But, I mean, to be fair, the Rezzers made a race that is destroying everything. The humans blew themselves up and started to kill themselves.
But you can't forget about their good deeds, like bringing everyone together before creating a race.
The Ferdician can.
They're just like a disappointed parent.
Basically, yeah. And then the Geislings, well, we know what the Geislings did. They destroyed all of their technology.
The Geislings probably don't deserve to be on there. I can see that.
They deserve a second chance.
I don't know
I can
about
see that as like a focus point for someone playing as a Geisling socialite. They're trying to prove their worth as like, you know, as a race and trying to become on the council or something.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, you know, story arc for a character.
Yeah. A Geisling socialite. I wonder how long they would last.
Right? Hopefully they're not on their planet anymore.
It could also be really funny too. Just some characters just like, I'm a Geisling socialite. I'm trying to become like, you know, a counselor, and then like 5 minutes into the session they die.
The government that opposes the Republic, though, is known as the Syndicate, and they are a government that's completely composed of humans, basically. I guess the humans saw the Republic as putting the humans out as wrong, so they developed their own government away from the Republic. However, they're also racists. They view as all the other races as lesser humans, and they would be just tools for humans to further their goals. So they do call upon other races to help them, but they're not going to be treated like the humans.
Are they racist to other humans too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say liken them to a more futuristic KKK.
Oh my god.
What, really?
Something like that. Although they're not full KKK. No, that's another government system, actually, known as the Regime of the Pureblood. Another human-based government that works with the Syndicate. However, they view only whites. Only white humans.
Oh my gosh.
All the time. Nothing else. Anything else can die. So.
I see why humans aren't allowed in the other scene.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
council.
Yeah. If you ever want to kill space Nazis, you can in this game. In fact, that's gonna be an adventure module, so. Woo! What else? I was gonna go on to something whenever I was talking about the Republic. There was something else with the Republic that I was gonna talk about.
Major cities? No?
No, it wasn't major cities. There's the Republic Citadel, there's the Valiant city of Legasius, though. The other cities aren't really that important. I guess human cities, but...
Was the Republic corrupt?
No.
They sounded corrupt.
It sounded corrupt.
Not really. Not as corrupt as the Syndicate in them. They're more of a... I guess it's sort of corrupt, but they're focused on trying to help everyone in a way that they can by limiting the access to more violent races. They're just trying to do their best.
Sorry about any of the background noise.
We don't know what's going on out there.
We really don't. Construction, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, going back, I really can't remember what I was going to say. There was something about the Republic, or something that's similar to the Republic, with... There's a Ferdician counselor, Vatian counselor, Darabin counselor. Nope, that didn't ring any bells. It sort of did.
Only ever 3 counselors?
Only ever 3.
There's no, like, multiples of...
No, it's only 3, and then every race has an ambassador. So technically, there is a Vatian counselor and a Vatian ambassador.
Okay.
They get 2 politicians.
Military?
It's not really military either. All the governments have a military. That's right. Now I remember. Actually, thank you, Megan. With the military idea, that actually jogged my brain a little bit. Going back to the Geislings, actually, after the war, there was a group of Geislings that were seen as the, I guess, elite. And one of them, I don't remember his name exactly, I think it was Imgar was his name. But he viewed the peace treaty as a weak move. He thought that the Geislings, if they were to actually continue, that they could actually kill every other race. But the counselors for the Geislings side, no, we're not going to go through with that, and we're just going to create a peace treaty. But Imgar, he went away with his battalion, and he started up his own group known as the Crimson Company. And he brought together other Geislings with the same mindset, and they started to just go around doing contracts to get money to eventually start up their own army to go against every other race once again to start off another Geisling war. So,
Right.
which is also very interesting because now there are Crimson Company people who are other races.
I feel like after that human thing where those other races came in, they're just like, stop doing that stuff to your race. There would be like a bunch of people opposed to it, like, no, we need to keep doing this.
Probably the Syndicate.
Syndicate? Yeah, that's right.
The Syndicate would probably keep on doing that.
Yeah.
Same thing with Regime of the Pure Blood. But Regime of the Pure Blood and the Syndicate are pretty much one and the same.
Yeah.
They have different leaders, though. Regime of the Pure Blood is led by Lady Sasha Gardner, and the Syndicate, I don't remember who they're led by. It's a man. I know that. Can't remember the leader, though. Can't remember his name. I know that the Vatian counselor, I don't know why I remember his name, Gaikuro Brevra. It's a weird name, but
That's why you remember it.
yeah, possibly. I don't remember the Darabin or the Ferdician counselor, though. I know that the Darabin counselor is a woman, the only woman in the council right now. What?
I don't like that.
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe the Ferdicians are also sexist. Probably not. I mean, one of their first council members was probably a female. So.
I really just don't see them as being sexist either.
Nah, they're probably not. I'm not even the Regime of the Pure Blood are sexist. Even demons know. Speaking of the Crimson Company, though, I guess we could go on to actual companies in the universe, like Obduro.
Obduro.
Obduro is my favorite creation because I created that even before Primus Star existed. It's a company that was developed by the humans, actually before they blew themselves up. It was a company that was there creating, I guess you could say, war technologies.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. They had a base on the moon. Was one thing. They had a base on the moon. They had several bases on Earth. They were the ones that actually they are viewed, a lot of conspiracy theorists actually view them as the ones that started the war, that blew up everyone. It was an accident. Obduro swears it was an accident.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
But a lot of people view that as they actually wanted to start the war, because after the war started, Obdura was able to get basically everything. They got all the power that was left, all the oil, all the fuel and everything that was left on the planet. No one else had the resources to do it because they had a base on the moon away from all the chaos. They were able to bring all of their technology from the moon base onto the planet, and they just set up shop there, started to make societies, and they were the only ones that actually had any form of government. So the Obduro was able to make their own government on the planet. So they were now the government, the leading company. They had everything. They were making food for all the humans. They had all the money. They were just there. And then they decided to make their company in the universe once they were found. So now Obduro is the leading manufacturer of everything.
Well, all right, capitalism.
Yep. That's what Obduro is. Science of the future. The future is Obduro. Besides that, there is also, I know, Icarus Industries. That was one that was developed by the Darabin, I believe. Go to shielding, can you?
Go to where?
Shielding, because I know they all developed a different type of shield.
Like in which part of the
Armor
book?
and
It's an
shields.
armor.
Okay. Just making sure.
Why would it be called Icarus? Were they just like inspired by human culture? Like, we're gonna name our company Icarus.
Yes. They also viewed it as humans spending the most money because of Obduro. They were sort of just looking at humans. A lot of companies from other races actually just looked at humans, seeing that they had a lot of money, and they just wanted their money.
Like, we're gonna trick humans into spending their money on ours because they think it's gonna be a human company.
Pretty much, yeah. Excuse our lead graphic designer right now. She's trying to find it.
Wasn't there Odin too?
Yeah, there's Odin Industries. That was developed by... It's right there. I can see it.
Okay.
It's not all of them, though.
Oh, right here? Or-
Yeah. Oh, that's escape pods.
Yeah, that's
Well, I guess the escape pods work, too, because they all developed their own escape pod.
Hold on. Better make sure it isn't under this picture. Okay.
The book is in development, if you didn't know. But yeah, there is Odin as well. They are actually a Vatican company. They also took the same idea of taking something from human culture and making it into a company so that the humans would actually buy their product.
It's the trend. Only humans spend money, apparently.
The lowest grossing company, however, is Resin Industries, which is a Geisling company. They're Geisling, so they don't really develop that good of technology. They would have in the past, but now a lot of it is just gross imitations of what they had developed in the past, trying to remember what they made, but everything's horrible. The Resers don't have any sort of company, and they do manufacture stuff, but that's mainly just for the war against the Sleepers. So they have things known as RZ, whatever, RZ suit, RZ capital ship, RZ combat ship, anything like that. It's the same naming convention for everything, but they're just made efficiently in a factory just to go out, destroy some Sleepers, and probably get destroyed in the process.
Is theirs the best stuff to get?
The RZ stuff?
Yeah.
It usually is, because it's made by Resers specifically to take on Sleepers, which is one of the strongest races in the galaxy. So, yeah.
All right.
If you can get your hands on an RZ item, you should. However, I mean, they're made specifically for taking on Sleepers. So,
Might be hard to find.
it might be hard to find. It's also expensive if you're actually going to buy it. I will just stick with Obduro. They have developed good things.
They might be able to find a place giving it out for free if you're willing to go on a suicide mission to find a sleeper.
Yeah, probably.
And then don't go.
Right.
One interesting thing is actually the Sleeper's base. It's located near the center of the galaxy. Also, all around the base is just a ship graveyard. Just a whole bunch of wreckage. because anytime you go near the sleeper base, there is a giant railgun that's on their base that can tear through anything. So it's very hard to actually get anywhere near the base.
So did the sleepers think all the fighting is a waste of time? Like, all the people trying to come in and destroy them, how like, exhausted are they by that?
I mean, they're exhausted that they won't give up.
Yeah.
They're not going to
just
give
really
up, though.
Annoyed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
they're...
like, ugh, peasants.
This
They're
is
just
why I
annoyed.
need to destroy you all.
There's only been a few people that have actually been inside the sleeper base, and they've never really came back. They were only able to get some intel out on radio signals, but that was about it. Yeah, the sleepers took care of them very fast. But the reason why they were able to get past is the cloaking mechanisms that they would add onto ships. That's the only way to get past, really, unless you want to try and dodge giant rail beams. Rail beams? Is that really what? Energy beams, I guess, would technically be it. If it's a rail gun. Energy beams.
Man, you talked about the governments, and then you talk about Obduro, and you're just like, it's its own government, and you didn't even talk about Obduro in the government part.
They're just the government on Earth.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at America...
We need like a map. Like I need a map with the worlds drawn out and like the governments listed on them. And like, each city has a picture. That's how I get things across.
The Vatian government system on the Vatian world, Legasius, their government system is just based off of what?
No, me and Ryan are like.
You start rambling off, and it's like going overhead, and I'm just like, whoa. There's so much information.
The Vatian homeworld is Legasius.
Okay.
It's a metropolis homeworld. Their government system is basically just the different Vatian families.
Okay.
Okay.
Geisling government is just tribes. There you have several different governments. Unless you're
That's
talking...
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Ferdician government is... They have none on their planet. It's basically just developed technology. They only have a very set... I guess all of them have a set moral code. Is don't kill people. Don't be, I guess, bad.
Alright.
You don't have any way to enforce it though?
They have military and everything to enforce it.
So they're a militaristic government?
I mean, yeah, I guess. But that military usually comes from the Republic. So it's really the Republic.
So
Yeah,
they're
they were the ones that
ruled
made
by
the Republic, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So their government's the Republic, but it's not
essentially.
on there.
It's not on their planet. It's just their planet is free roam, but the Republic is looking, is
Okay.
watching, always watching. The Darabin don't really have a government either. They're more of just a tribe, like the Geislings. They have Darabin elders, but they mostly take care of religious sites on the Darabin homeworld. Their government is more of a theocracy.
Okay, that makes sense.
And actually, I guess that's all. The Rezzers, they don't really have a government at all.
Well,
Their
yeah.
government is the program.
So the Darabin are the religious ones,
Yes.
even though they're the angst. Okay.
Well, before they weren't really that religious, actually. They had religious objects like artifacts and everything that they would take care of, but they are more focused on other pursuits. But then once the disease hit, people started to get more religious
Okay, that makes sense.
because they had legends of artifacts healing Darabin and things like that. That's actually an adventure module. You have to go and get artifacts, but we'll talk about that later on. Speaking of which, we're actually going to play through that adventure module. If you're interested, this month we're going to be creating characters and running a session that will be free to view for everyone, even you, the people that are donating $20 and $10, which, I mean, I would hope so if it's free to view for everyone.
You know, if I was a DM and I was remaking the Geislings kind of government, I would make them monarchy ruled by some giant, like, female Geisling as the queen. be like a
Most of the
hive.
most of
They
the
might
tribes
have one of those.
most of the tribes are ruled by a female.
Yeah, they're bug races. So.
Because
Yeah.
they're the ones
Yeah.
that give birth.
Well, I'd make one giant one.
Speaking of which, I forgot to talk about this with the Geislings, their culture. One thing that brought, well, after the war that they had with only themselves, not the war with all the other races, just the ones, whenever they blew themselves up. There we go. Right after that, they brought back an old, I guess, cultural element,
Tradition.
a tradition, where they would send their young into a cave right after they were born, and they would have to survive in the cave for a month.
Oh, yeah.
And whoever survived was able to be brought back out and be seen as a Geisling. If you didn't go through that process, you would not be seen as a Geisling, even if you were a Geisling. There are some that have actually gone through that, where they would actually be, I guess, brought away from that kind of scenario from their mother. They would be saved from that, but the other Geislings, mainly the males, would see them as not Geisling, so they would have to be sent away from the planet.
That's where that socialite Geisling came in, huh?
There was one player who actually played as a Geisling who had that as his backstory. He
Oh,
was
cool.
saved, and he had a brother who was still alive as well, who actually did get sent into the caves and became a Geisling.
Well, all he has to do is kill a rockfish.
Yeah, kill a rockfish and he'll be seen as a Geisling. That's an easy task.
Yeah, especially for a socialite.
But I suppose it is now at that time where we need to stop. It's a little over an hour. So my name is Jonathan Moore. I've been the lead game designer.
I'm Megan Slay. I've been the lead artist.
I'm Natalie Thompson. I'm the lead graphic designer.
And we will see you next month.